Welcome to BitBoy Crypto, home of the BitSquad, the largest and greatest crypto community in all of the interwebs. This is Around the Blockchain. I'm your host, DZ. We come to you Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We've been doing pretty good today. This whole week, we've been crushing it. So, we go around the blockchain here. We have different guests, different topics every day. If you like what you're hearing, go ahead and hit +1 in chat. Whoever gets the most points at the end will then get to leave a parting message for our viewers. And today we got some great topics. We're going to talk about Polkadot surging. We're going to talk about these billionaires starting to back Bitcoin and some shocking revelations regarding some inflation numbers. But yeah, we're going to go around the circle. We have a first-time guest here, Minority Mindset. Make sure you check out his channel. He's got over 1 million subs. So yeah, definitely want to check that out. He's putting out some really great content. We also have, he's going live, I believe, right after the show with some breaking Ethereum stuff, CryptoJebb. So he'll be going live right at the top of the hour after the show. Also, Altcoin Daily. I haven't talked to you, man. Congrats on the movie award. Your got a best actor right at the Pasadena Film Fest. Just for the people at home, what is that movie called again?
It's called Instant Gratification. It's about how far will one wannabe YouTuber, wannabe influencer go to gain that online following. Okay, and how many, so Ben Armstrong also gave you the rights to that. He was so generous to do that. He's got his camera. I believe everything's fixed. The chalkboard's on the good side.
Wait a second. What are you saying? Are you saying that I'm the YouTuber, I'm the influencer that's willing to go to any distance to crush anyone?
Well, it's called Instant Gratification, the BitBoy story. So if that's based on you, I don't know.
Austin, you look like you're sitting in behind Ben. It looks like you're sitting in front of his shirt.
Oh,
yeah.
He's in front of my belly.
Yeah, that's actually a blown up movie poster behind him.
Let me put my hand on his head here.
Oh my God, we are falling off the rails already, and it's only been 2 minutes, folks. All right, well, on that note, we're going to go straight into the market watch here. It's been another one of those quote-unquote good days, and we've had a really good run-up. So the fact that we're still green today is still very bullish. We have Bitcoin. It was above 1% right now, just kind of hanging on at 0.7 here. Above 57,000, though. That's important. We also have Ethereum. Ethereum was touching 3,800 today. It's still up 5%. BNB had a huge run up a couple days ago. It was up like 10%. So only up 1%, but still looking good there. If we check out some of the top 20. I mean, a lot of things kind of moving sideways. Chainlink. I've been telling you guys to buy a little Chainlink. A lot of smart people saying Chainlink is undervalued. I know Benjamin Cowan's in that camp. I'm in that camp as well. If we look at some of the top gainers, Axie Infinity was actually one of the top losers the other day. You see that with Axie Infinity a lot. It's very fickle market cap, very volatile. So it's top 25 coin, but it behaves like it's a top 500. Telcoin up. We got Flow. We got Hedera. Uniswap up 6%. We check out the losers. Looks like Leo the Lion is down. SHIB. Oh, I'm sorry, my SHIB people. But Baker the Legend did just put out a Shiba Inu wrap. So maybe Baker the Legend, he works here. He's one of our thumbnail people. Maybe he'll prop up all the whole SHIB market. Who knows? Jeb, I want to bring it to you real quick. On the market watch angle here, are we going to cool down soon? Are you looking at some red candles in the near future? What's it looking like, heading up to the rest of this week?
So it's interesting. It depends on what you're talking about. If you're discussing Bitcoin looks like it's running out of steam. It's had a massive rally, but the problem is it doesn't seem to be able to maintain that. It's gradually increased in price over the last 7 days from around 54,000 to where it sits right now at 57,500. The issue that it's running into is it's extended itself so far that a lot of the bulls, quite frankly, have run out of money. The good news is we have options expiring tomorrow, $820 million worth, and it looks like those bulls are going to get several $100 million to help them continue moving this market if we close right around where we are right now. So Bitcoin is having a hard time continuing. It seems to be reaching the end of its rope, but Ethereum actually just broke bullish out of its inverse head and shoulders pattern, and it might actually be the next project to have a lot of bullish momentum moving it into the next week and beyond.
Okay, so Bitcoin is maybe a little bit scary. I mean, tomorrow's going to be a very volatile day. Be careful, especially you leverage traders out there. All right, well, let's get into our first topic here. We're going to talk about Polkadot. A lot of people actually, I get a lot of your emails. I read your emails. I read all of them. I've been checking the comments. A lot of people have been asking, when are you going to cover Polkadot? When are you going to cover Polkadot? Well, we're kind of waiting for some exciting news. I know a lot of people love it. It's had a huge run up. We actually have the chart right here. We're looking at a trading view with the market cipher from a good old crypto face here. And this is the 8-hour chart. So we had some really, really good candles here. If you look at the daily, I mean, look at that run up there. I mean, this is, we had a low, recently, it looked like it dipped down to right around $10. Right now it's up to 40. We've seen a 4X in a short amount of time. Its all-time high is around 49. Yeah, 49, maybe even pushing 50, depending on what chart you're looking at. So, I mean, we're reaching this high level. Polkadot, just for a little background, it wants to use parachains. It wants the opposite of a layer 2 solution. They're kind of going the opposite direction. They call it a layer 0 solution. And they want chains to operate within each other. Now, I'm going to bring it to you, Altcoin Daily. You cover a lot of alts. I'm sure you've covered DOT plenty of times. A lot of people, when they talk about an Ethereum killer, we hear the same two names. We hear Solana, we hear Cardano. We hear those names all the time. Should Polkadot be in that conversation?
Absolutely. It has co-founder of Ethereum, Gavin Wood, same as co-founder of Ethereum, Charles Hoskinson. I would venture to say that the only reason that Cardano undeniably has such community support is because through the bear market, Charles Hoskinson going live 2-3 times a week, keeping the community up to date and explaining, to the average retail investor, okay, here's the progress, here's what's happening. The reason I would say we're seeing this price increase is it's a combination of hype and it's a combination of substance, in my opinion. There's always going to be a buy the rumor, sell the news aspect to any big event, usually in the crypto space, which is happening, I think November 11th is when the first Parachains auction off. But also, in order to win those auctions, you're going to have to, there's only 100 slots, you're going to have to, or you have the ability to contribute some DOT to help secure those auctions. The community gets to decide. So I would say it's half hype and also half, wow, we better load up on DOT if we want our project to get those slots first.
Yeah, now, Alco, you brought up, buy the rumor, sell the news. Now, Ben, we've seen that before. We saw it with Ethereum. I actually thought, once their upgrade went live, it was going to go down. We had literally a record number of daily green candles. But then with Cardano, we kind of saw the opposite. It was a buy the rumor, sell the news. Dogecoin, Elon jumping on Saturday Night Live, that was a buy the rumor, sell the news. Now, we have this big thing going down November 11th. Where do you put Polkadot in that equation? Is this a buy the rumor, sell the news, or once the 11th and if everything goes, is it going to continue to go higher?
Well, let's talk about that. Number one, Dogecoin was extended way past where it should have been in a rally, and it was all, if you remember, Dogecoin had actually started having a slight pullback when the Elon Musk going on Saturday Night Live news was announced. And that actually started a fresh push that pushed it up, over 70 cents. I mean, guys, we were buying Dogecoin at a penny. Remember? Yep. That was this year. Like, it wasn't that long ago. So it got up to, I think, about 50 or 60, and then it pulled back. And then, of course, the Saturday Night Live set up at 74. We knew nothing was coming out of that Saturday night. I mean, what possibly could have came out of a Saturday Night Live appearance? Mockery.
Laughs.
Maybe it may. Well, I was going to say, if it was in the 90s, laughs. But ever since, I don't know. So, right. it is what it is there. But the fact is when you look at Ethereum and when you look at Cardano and you compare those two launches with the EIP 5059 versus the smart contracts, there is one distinct difference between those two. And this will be very applicable as we move towards November 11th, why I do believe the Polkadot will pump for far beyond where it is now.
Yeah, and chat. Yeah, I see some people in chat. Go getting love from getting the dots at 10 a few months ago. I know some of you listened to the channel. We were saying, this is a good ecosystem. So it was something, when it was low, we were pushing it here. Now, Alcoy, he brought up, the Ethereum. We have some of the same founders. Now, Minority Mindset. We have some of these people. Gavin Wood, Robert Habermeyer. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Some of these people, they were there for the genesis of Ethereum. Do you think having some of these Ethereum co-founders on the team kind of gives DOT that extra bit of juice? Do you think that really affects in any tangible way?
Absolutely. I mean, we're talking about people who built one of the largest and most powerful cryptocurrencies out there. I mean, when you have that sort of experience, it's coming to the table knowing what it's like. And Ethereum obviously has seen a lot of success. It's being used across so many different platforms. The blockchain is being used in so many different places. So that experience, I mean, it's you can't replicate that experience.
Yeah, yeah, and so I mean, I don't want to get too bogged down in the details, but Kusama is essentially the parachain test net for it. We're not going to go into like what is a parachain. We could do a whole episode on that. There's some great content online if you really want to educate yourself further on that. I'm just going to ask everybody here, moving forward, if let's just say you're watching this, you've just now kind of learned about Polkadot and what a parachain is, and you see Kusama, and let's just say you have $100 and you don't know where to put it. I'm going to ask everybody. I'm going to start with you, Jeb. Would you put it into DOT or would you put it into Kusama?
I put it into DOT, and the reason I put it into DOT is because DOT is building what's known as a layer 0 protocol. So you have layer 1s, which are Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, these things that you build on top of. You have layer 2s. A good example would be something like a Chainlink, where that's built on top of a layer 1. Polkadot is supposed to be doing something called interoperability, building the internet of blockchains so that all these blockchains are able to cross-communicate, and that hopefully is going to bring them together. Charles Hoskinson has talked about a Wi-Fi moment where all of these are able to interact with each other. I would put it in Polkadot because I think Polkadot is one of the few cryptocurrencies in this ecosystem that's attempting to do that. I don't see a lot of valid competition, so I think it's got a great run ahead of it in the next 12 to 24 months.
Okay, now mindset. Where's your mindset on this? Are you going to go DOT or are you going to go Kusama?
DOT, because you can think of it like a computer. If you just have one computer, it doesn't do very good. The thing that makes computers so powerful is its ability to connect with and talk to other computers. That's what DOT is trying to do. Polkadot is trying to do the interconnectability of other cryptocurrencies, and that's where there's a lot of power in the future.
Okay, Ben, Polkadot or Kusama? Where are you putting your $100?
I'm taking Polkadot, and the reason why I'm taking Polkadot is that I have a lot of shirts with those on them.
Oh my God!
Okay, hold on. Stop.
Walked right into
come
that.
back. I have a serious point. I'm taking Polkadot, and the reason is. And this morning we were talking about this. Is it better to invest in both of them? But if they move in tandem, why would you do that? So I think the better bet is Polkadot. If you look at the companies that are going to win the first parachain auctions and compare those with the companies or projects that won the first Kusama auctions, I think you'll find just more robust, bigger names are coming to Polkadot. So, I mean, I think that's a good reason to go with it.
Okay, and Altcoin Daily, where are you landing on this?
I wouldn't be putting it, me personally, in either of the two right now. 4 months ago, 3 months ago, as all of us were talking about parachains were coming, as we saw Kusama launch their parachains, then I would have put it into DOT. But right now, for me personally, I would feel like, oh, I'm putting that $100 into the hype, and I want to focus on stuff. Polkadot's going to, be fine in the next 5 years. It's going to do very well, but just in these next 3 weeks, I'm more risk averse, and I feel I would be buying into the hype.
Yeah, anybody who is thinking about it, I would probably, echo those sentiments. You probably would be buying in the hype. Don't expect like a huge run up after something jumps, like it was up 25% in one day at one point earlier. So yeah, let's go to the next topic here. We have billionaires backing Bitcoin. Yeah, we were going with the alliteration there. So, we had the famous, it was making the rounds on crypto Twitter. Jamie Dimon, he's the CEO of JP Morgan, one of the main voices in traditional finance, for sure. I don't think anyone can argue with that. He was saying Bitcoin is essentially worthless. He doesn't like it. They don't, he would never own any. Famously said he'd fire anybody who bought any Bitcoin. He said this years ago. I'm sure he loves I'm sure hopefully someone there reminds him, like, I tried to buy it and he wouldn't let me. I would hope so, at least. So he's very vocal against it. But then, so these other billionaires, they're making their rounds on CNBC, Fox News Business, and these people they're getting asked, like, what do you think about Jamie Dimon's comments? What do you think about his comments? And a lot of these billionaires, they're coming forth saying they're in favor of Bitcoin. We had Barry Steinlicht, he's worth $4.4 billion. We had Mark Cuban, again, the outspoken owner of the Dallas Mavericks. He was saying it's better than gold. He did say Ethereum does have, the more upside. Now, minority mindset, we have this narrative of, billionaires are bad, eat the rich, the purge, all these things, If as more and more of these billionaires start buying Bitcoin, can you see that maybe being used as a negative? Like, oh, it's the billionaires, is that just going to push people to like a Dogecoin or some sort of community coin because they see Bitcoin as being for the elite?
Well, cryptocurrency itself is a movement by the people, and it's a movement bottom up, where the people are moving towards creating their own money. Right? It's people choosing what their currency is, as opposed to letting the Federal Reserve Bank or the government tell them what to do. Now, I think it can go either way. It's hard to say because it depends on what billionaires start to do with that cryptocurrency. If billionaires are now buying Bitcoin saying, oh, I'm going to get rich because of Bitcoin, then yeah, you're going to see kind of the same thing. Why did you see the big run-ups in the meme stocks? Because people were trying to give the middle finger to Wall Street. They don't want to be controlled and manipulated by Wall Street and quote unquote the elites. And so if you start to see billionaires coming in trying to push the usage of cryptocurrency, then I don't think so. But if you see billionaires start to buy it for the purposes of them enhancing their wealth and for those purposes, then yeah, I think you will see people leave Bitcoin and go to something smaller.
Okay. And real quick in the chat, now they're going to be disappointed you took it off. They said +1 for Altcoin Daily for the headband, +69 if he shows a tennis racket, you know, so now, a lot of these billionaires, they have tech backgrounds. We seem to, if we do get a billionaire just be pro-Bitcoin, you know, more often than not, they seem to be coming from Silicon Valley. Now, Ben, do you think that the new billionaires, they're into it, you know, they like Bitcoin. Do you think the old money billionaires will follow? The people who are born into this wealth, you know, maybe the last name's, you know, same as a big company, Fortune 500 company. Are these people going to jump on board too?
Yeah, I think that they will, but they're going to continue to tell you that they won't. I mean, anybody that doesn't think that somewhere along the line, Jeff Bezos doesn't have access to Bitcoin or doesn't have, he's not exposed to Bitcoin, I would tell you that's crazy. He definitely has some sitting somewhere. There's no doubt about it. We know for years Elon Musk said, oh, I got a quarter of a Bitcoin. Somebody gave me once. Right back, he was saying that back when it was, you know, $3,000 or $6,000. You know, he had more exposure than that. So you get a lot of lies from these people. Warren Buffett is another one who somewhere in his portfolio or his, you know, in his orbit there is some Bitcoin, but they don't want to promote it. Why? Because these people made the money with the old system and they want to continue the old system. But at some point, it becomes, you know, it becomes inevitable. It's kind of like you guys know I like sports analogies. Like, think about this. Football, right? Football used to be a lot tougher than it is today. You used to be able to hit harder. You used to be able to smash somebody in the side of the helmet in their ear, and they liked it. In fact, the NFL would produce entire videos of their greatest hits where it was like boom, 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 boom. Well, now, if you hit a receiver too hard, you're getting a penalty. If you hit a quarterback too hard, you're getting a penalty. There's no question about it. If we look back at where we were 20 years ago in football and where we are today on like a continuum of what kind of hits were allowed, like if you did not adapt your style to the new way, if you continued hitting hard like that, you would never last. You would get kicked out of games. Your team would lose every game because you get personal foul penalties whenever somebody got hit. So at some point, you have to be able to adapt your style because you may not like it. Like, I don't like the new football. I like when we were a little more smash mouth and people used to get hit and people liked it and it was fun. Now, no, I didn't want it to be me, of course, you know, but I didn't want to be getting hit, but I liked watching the hits. You know what I mean? So like, I would prefer the old style, but the new style is where we're at today. And that's the way that's the rules that you have to play by. The old money knows the game is changing. So when you see Jamie Dimon coming out and saying stuff about Bitcoin being worthless, it's all just for appearances. He, in fact, has exposure to Bitcoin. His company has exposure to Bitcoin. They're continuing to increase that exposure. That's why you have to listen to what they do, not what they say.
Yeah. Yeah, and I, too, like the old football. You know, I was an old-school Dallas Cowboys fan, so I like Michael Irvin. So I liked it when my wide receivers smoked the cornerback by running so fast and just, you know, just like they would smoke him on the field. You know what I mean? It was very entertaining to watch. Now, we had
I like the brain damage they would get years later.
Well, CTE is a serious concern, so, you know, just be careful. And, you know,
it's questionable.
Sorry to bring the downer, but I'm bringing awareness to it.
Yeah, we're bringing awareness.
Hello, Austin. We prefer instant gratification on this channel. We don't care about the effects later on.
So we had another asset, now this guy, you would talk about billionaires. This guy's running the largest asset under management company, BlackRock. His last name, I can't make this up. His last name's Fink. Larry Fink. He runs BlackRock, and he had a quote, "I'm not a student of Bitcoin and where it's going to go, so I can't tell you whether it's going to 80K or to zero. But I do believe there's a huge role for digitized currency." Now, Jeb, when it comes to crypto, do you really think that this guy isn't educated enough to understand, mining, sunken costs? Do you think he really thinks it could go to zero?
No, I don't. And the reason is let me Google real quick how much assets under management they have. Oh, yeah, right. BlackRock has $10 trillion in assets under management. If he doesn't know, he should be fired because that company ought to know full well the future of Bitcoin. They have $10 trillion worth of people's assets under management. And by the way, I'm going to answer that question, but I also want to ask a question about the previous question. For chat, I want to see a hashtag Jamie Dimon or Bitcoin in the chat to answer this. Whose opinion is what is more worthless, Bitcoin or Jamie Dimon's opinion on Bitcoin? I think it's Jamie Dimon's opinion on Bitcoin. Sure, he said Bitcoin was worthless at the all-time high when it hit 20K. Even if he had bought the all-time high and had his long-term outlook like he always talks about on Bitcoin, he would still be up 150% even if he bought the previous all-time high. But no, I don't think that anybody in traditional finance has any inclination or any belief that Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is going to go to zero because frankly, if you think that, then you probably should not have a job in that industry because it's pretty obvious that that's not going to happen. Now, you can make an argument that Ethereum is going to flip Bitcoin. You can make an argument that Bitcoin has scalability concerns. You can make all those arguments. I don't see how it makes any sense that it's going to go to zero. And to the point that Ben was making earlier, I think a lot of these guys who are dealing in traditional finance understand the way the game's played, and they understand that Bitcoin is a threat to the way that that game is played. And it's not that they don't want to make the most out of that opportunity, it's that they're scared of what they have right now. It's the two birds in the hand versus one, it's the one bird in the hand versus two birds in the bush kind of mentality right now. Hey, we can make a lot of money over here in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but for BlackRock, we have $9.496 trillion in assets under management. How do we pivot to being able to offer Bitcoin and cryptocurrency custody and services and brokerage services? It's going to be difficult for them, so they might not be the most bullish on it. I think that this person probably does have exposure to it, and I think the more billionaires that come in this direction show that the outlook in traditional finance is starting to shift, but I think there is a deep concern about it affecting the businesses that they've already spent the last 20, 30, 40 years building and growing.
Yeah, I do think more billionaires are going to be moving towards this sector. Mindset, you might have a little bit of I think it might be a little hot there, but so yeah, more and more billionaires are going to be moving into this space for sure. Now, Altcoin Daily, would you consider just your average, billionaire? Would you consider, the average billionaire being ahead or behind just the average person when it comes to crypto knowledge?
They are behind for the most part. I would argue this is the first time in human history, at least the last 100, 200 years, that the average retail investor in a lot of ways, obviously not everybody yet, is ahead of the hedge fund, the corporates, the billionaire, just because this was driven by cypherpunks. This is the first time the people were coming in first over those big players. So the issue is that everybody's sort of playing catch up. And a lot of people are taking the journey in the corporate world that we saw Michael Saylor take, where 5 years ago he was tweeting that Bitcoin is going to zero, it's worthless, and then it didn't go away, and he did his research. And I would actually encourage every single person watching this right now, a clip I really like that speaks to that older generation, that speaks to that big money, is Michael Saylor on Fox News, on Hannity's show. I really think Michael, by this time, it was a couple months ago, he has perfected his speech. He's talking to that older crowd, and he really kind of wins Hannity over, who is already a peripheral fan. So billionaires that are, knocking Bitcoin because saying it's worthless, it's simply because everything is happening so fast, much faster, than the internet era, where we saw that in a matter of years. Nobody using the internet to 5 years later, almost everybody using the internet. They're forced to answer these questions. So they're forced to give an answer before they truly understand. And we're seeing people kind of work it out in real time.
Yeah, this is moving much, much faster, kind of like a Altcoin Daily twin on the track with a headband. Zoom so fast you can't even see it coming. All right, we're going to go to the last topic here. You probably beat me in a foot race. I'm tall, but I got thick thighs, or I don't know what it is. But shocking inflation numbers on the horizon. Thick with two C's, Ben. So we're going to talk about the consumer price index. Now, this is, kind of one of the ways that the government tracks inflation. What is inflation? Your dollar next year's worth 94 cents, 95 cents. That's what inflation is. So the CPI just came out. It looked like it rose 0.4% in September. That doesn't sound that bad, right? 0.4% in a month, yeah. But year over year, it jumped 5.4%, breaking the previous record, I think 2 months ago or a month ago, and that's the largest jump since January 91. Okay, we're talking basically over 30 years here. The largest jump in a whole generation, more than a whole generation. This isn't, something small. Now, it's a very, very important note. This is with massaged data. They massage the data. Now, minority mindset, can you give a little bit of a background? Like, what does it mean to massage the data?
Yeah, absolutely. So what the Federal Reserve is doing, and it helps to understand the why, because that will help you understand what's going on and why they're doing it. So what the Federal Reserve does, they're known as the central banking system of the United States. They're supposed to control our monetary supply. But the interesting thing about them is they're not federal. They're not a reserve. They don't keep reserves anywhere. And they are not a bank. You and I can't go there to deposit money. And what they're trying to do is they are trying to increase the amount of money out there. They want to increase inflation. And the reason why they want to do that is because right now the United States government has something like $29 trillion worth of national debt. And the only way they can pay this off is if we see more inflation. Because if we have more inflation, that means the government can pay back this debt with cheaper dollars. If we see any sort of deflation, that means they have to pay back this $29 trillion worth of debt with more expensive dollars. So it's in the government's best interest to see more inflation. So that's why they're trying to massage the data. Now, how are they doing that? Well, the Federal Reserve Bank came out in their most recent meeting and they said that inflation is high, but it's not that high. They're saying that they want to, maintain their certain inflation targets. And the way that they're doing that is they say that they look at a derivative of CPI, which is what you just talked about. They look at something called PCE. And then within that PCE data, they skew the data. They remove certain data numbers. So let me explain what that means. You take a chart and you put all the inflation numbers that you see rising housing prices, you see rising car prices, you see rising grocery prices, and you put all these things on a chart. You could take out the grocery, but you put all these things on a chart. And then what they did is they take off the top 34%. They said these are outliers. Then they took out the bottom 21%. They said that these are also outliers. So the majority of the data they consider outliers. Then what you're left with is a chart that just kind of looks like this, where inflation isn't that bad. And so the Federal Reserve Bank is able to kind of manipulate the data. That way they can now go back to their agenda of now wanting to print more money. That way we can make cheaper dollars. That way the government has more ability to now pay down this debt.
Yeah, so the TLDR, they are lying to you when it comes to what is the inflation. Now, Ben, I went over this when you were in Boston, I know you said, well, the inflation is going to slow down. I heard some, I kind of dove deep into it and I kind of saw some of the reasoning and just real quick, we have this huge supply issues. We have all these cargo ships backed up canals, backed up at ports, backed up everywhere, backed up with trucks. Now, when that scarcity ends, there's going to be a glut. There's going to be too much stuff. And then that is when we will see the inflation slow down. So I know this is something you've talked about. How much longer do you think that this inflation is going to continue? Is this going to the end of the year? Is this going early next year? What are your thoughts on that?
What do you have the numbers for August to September?
It jumped 5.4 0.4%. So it jumped 0.4%, a 0.5% basically.
Now that's just for this inflation period, but what about the month over that? So it's 0.4 back to back.
Yeah. Well, no. So I don't have you mean July into September, because that's August into September. Because we won't have October.
We don't have. Okay,
yeah.
So what was July into August?
I don't have that. They didn't. They probably. I want to say we set a record there, and I want to say it was also maybe 0.4 if I remember correctly. I think it was around the same.
July CPI numbers. Let's see if we can see that what that was. Let's see. That's a CPI. Let me go here to the news. Okay, so it was also 0.4%, it looks like, according to this that I'm looking at now. So in back-to-back months, we had 0.4%. I believe the month before that, let me see if I can find the, here we go. It went, this is the CPI for urban customers. Can I find the CPI for all items? Okay, it was 0.6 in March, 0.8 in April, 0.6 in May, 0.9 in June, 0.5 in July, 0.3 in August, and 0.4 in September. So our numbers, this is what you have to
we are slowing down.
Yes. Listen to the first part of the year. 6869. July, August, September, 534. Okay. For an average of 0.4 over the last 3 months. When you look at the average of, the average was almost twice that for the 4 months previous to that. So this is what we're telling you is, yes, the numbers are going up, but the rate at which they're increasing is going down dramatically. Okay. We are seeing a much different finish to this year than we saw in the end. At some point, we're going to hit the pendulum and we are going to be heading towards deflation sometime in the fall. And I understand the argument that the debt, it costs more in a sense when your money is stronger to pay off the debts. But I would tell you on the opposite side of that is they're not really that concerned with paying off the debts. They only pay the minimum that they can pay at all times, and they raise the debt ceiling. So they're going to do the minimum there. Here is what is up for grabs in this. This is what you have to understand what's so important with the CPI and with the dollar index, okay? And this is why we cannot continue this way, okay? If inflation continues to increase and they continue to print trillions of dollars each year, we will lose the world reserve currency status. That is the number one thing. That's actually the sole thing that gives America power over the rest of the world. China's economy, it can be as big as it wants to be. But as long as we have the reserve currency, then we are in control and we are in the power and we have the number one economy. Yeah. So at some point, that's got to change or else we will lose that. And the politicians are smart enough to know that, because guess what? If America loses power, guess who else loses power? All the politicians. And, there's nothing that those money-grubbing bastards want more than power.
All right. Appreciate some super chats. We got Crypto Face in the chat. We had someone with super chat saying Jaspreet's in the around the blockchain. That is right. And even a +1 for DZ. So appreciate that. So, yeah, you gave some pretty scary numbers there. 6.8, 6.9. Dang, that's not fine. They might sock it to us one more time, but we do need it to get low. So we have rental cars. It's up 42%, 42% year over year. That is just totally bonkers. Let's see, gas up 42%, used cars up 24%, hotels 18%, meat, up over 10%. These are very, very scary numbers when people's wages have only increased 4%. Well, altcoin, we have these.
Brandon.
We have Brandon. So we have these scary things, but when I talk to people, and I know you're doing meetups, you're going to movie fests, and you're doing the same, I bring up, this inflation is crazy, and it falls on deaf ears when I talk to people outside of crypto. It's almost like it's not on their radar. Inflation's not on their radar. Do you think that's going to change, or are you experiencing the same thing? What's your experience like when you try to bring up inflation with people outside of crypto?
Well, I just want to say first off that you said hotel rooms up almost 10%. It's nice to know that those rooms are 10% more quality. Yeah. It's nice to know that Chipotle up 8%, that food's 8%. Oh, wait a minute. No, it's not. It's the exact same quality, if not cheaper, because they have to subsidize. Guys, I just worked out their prices. Thank you. It's crazy because that can of Coke that your grandparents bought for 5 cents back in 1950 or whatever, that didn't get 20 times more valuable. The US dollar got 20 times less valuable, and we're seeing that more and more ever since 2020, where they vastly printed that money. To answer your question, DZ, I would say the one thing that I think my friends, and even though I'm the crypto guy among my friends, I only got a few people that are truly interested. I would say inflation was the number one thing that kind of got Bitcoin on their radar. They don't really care and they don't really think about it, but they did take that bullet point and be like, yeah, that is odd that 20 to 30% of the money, trillions of dollars have ever been created in the last 18 months. So I say, people don't really care. I think they'll start to care when they see these prices, but it is one thing that I think everybody kind of took notice, in their process to learn about crypto.
Yeah. I definitely went through the same thing. It's and the can of Coke is just one of the classic examples that it's easy to wrap your head around that, because you see old movies set in old days. It's like, yeah, Coke costs 5 cents, then it was 50, then it's $1. So, now you're even saying well, we don't even sell cans anymore. You got to buy the 2 liter for $2.50 or something. You got to break a whole extra thing. Now, Jebb, just real quick, what is your number one advice when it comes to people when they ask, regarding inflation? What's the number one takeaway you would want them to have?
I believe the technical term for the for the Consumer Price Index is a load of crap. That's the technical definition of it. I want to read you guys a statistic that I've been sitting on for the last 10 minutes waiting to show you guys this. Spain had the global reserve currency status, which is basically they have the majority of global reserves of their currency from 1530 to 1641. The Netherlands had global reserve currency status from 1642 to 1720. France had global reserve currency status from 1720 to 1815. From 1815 to 1920 is the United Kingdom, and from 1920 onward it's been the United States of America. What do each of those empires have in common? Each of them had global reserve currency status for about 100 years. How long ago was 1920? 101 years ago.
Ooh.
The United States has been losing its dominance on world reserve currency status ever since about 1971. What happened in 1971? We finally officially went off the gold standard. Why did these nations lose their world reserve currency status? Either one, the nation went into a period of decline. That's what we saw with the Spanish Empire. That's what we saw with the Netherlands. They lost their power in trade. The other thing that you see happen to many of these empires is they started to debase their currency because they got so big and they got so decadent and they wanted to do all of these cool things with public funds like build major militaries and go into giant wars that they printed a bunch of money so that they could afford that. You got to remember, inflation is taxation without representation, and it doesn't even require legislation. It is the destruction of your currency, and it leads to the destruction of the world currency status that Ben is talking about. The problem that a lot of people have when they look at this topic is they look at it on the last 5 years, or they look at the last year of data. I want you to zoom out and look at the last 500 years. How long do nations retain the world currency status? About 100 years on average, between 80 and 120. We are losing it right now as America, and I will tell you, as an American, if the United States of America loses its world reserve currency status, Ben is absolutely right. It will be terrible for this nation. It will be very bad for those politicians, and I'm afraid that even though they do want to stop it because they have a vested interest in the United States remaining the world reserve, having the world reserve currency status so we can remain the hegemon of the planet, you can't stop it. Economics don't allow it. If you keep inflating the currency, you're going to be able to pay for fancier social welfare programs, and you're going to be able to pay for a bigger military. You're going to be able to pay for these things at the expense of our children's future. And that's why Bitcoin's important.
Well, I would like to add
an
to
addendum.
That. You guys know I usually disagree with Jebb on literally every single thing that's ever come out of his mouth.
Yeah, pretty much.
But on this one, look, I get Jebb's point here. We've all seen that chart. And the funny thing is, if you see the chart, and you actually work out the math and you do all the averages, we're like literally at exactly the average number of years where a country will lose that world reserve currency status. Okay. But here's what's different about today than about 400 years ago. We have the internet. We have worldwide communications. We have a borderless economy in a lot of ways. And there's a lot more control for politicians at this point than there used to be in terms of being able to control nations. We control nations by the amount of money that we give them or the amount of debt that we allow them to have. What I think we're going to see is I do believe we are going to see a transition in the world reserve currency, but it's still going to be the US dollar. It's just going to be the digital dollar. So when you look at this chart in 400 years from now and you're looking at reserve currency, it's going to say US dollar, and then right above that in the next frame, it's going to say US digital dollar. And I think we'll have another sustained run with that. And that's going to be the key to this deflation over time.
I agree. And I think if any
disagree with
country is dethroned, it's actually going to be Bitcoin. And then with the oil and everything, I think that will be the reserve currency. Call me crazy. That's what I think. Now, Altcoin Daily, you had it at the end, and then Jebb got you with that 100-year stat, and then Ben jumped in and he stole it from Jebb. So Ben, you're once again, you won your own show. You're stealing it from everybody here. Basically, Houston Astros. Now, go ahead and give us a parting thought here. And Crypt Keeper, okay, Jebb, now wrap. Hey, he did give you bars there. It was like an episode of Hamilton or something. But Ben, go ahead. Give us a parting thought.
Yeah, parting thought for today is you guys remember we just saw Polkadot going up, and I think that DZ made a good point when he was saying to you guys, we're going to go through a time where everything's going to be pumping. the number one strategy you're going to be able to make money with, because look, we can talk about the world economics of Bitcoin and of dollars and everything, but the thing that you guys should be the most concerned about in the next few months is the end of this bull run and making the right moves. That's what's going to be able to position yourself better as we go into the next phase of wherever we're going. And remember, it's always best, buy things in the red, sell them in the green. Don't do the opposite, no matter how great the projects look. Yep.
Be careful chasing those pumps, people. And that's all we got time for today. I will be hosting tomorrow, I believe, because J-Chains has a new little human. So I'll see you all tomorrow, BitSquad. That's all we got time for. Easy out.